All volunteers must keep the emergency responder decal on their windshield. If you pass an accident in your marked vehicle, you must stop to help and call it in. No exceptions. Charles, did you hear me? Captain Holloway asked as I stared at the piece of paper in my hands. Yeah, I got it, I said while scoffing at the absurdity of the situation. How can the list of rules for volunteer emergency responders only have one rule? And why'd they bother to waste an entire piece of paper to print it? Captain Holloway narrowed his eyes as he handed me the decal, holding it in his grip when I tried to take it from him. He leaned in. I can't stress enough how important it is to always stop. No matter where you're going or what your plans are, stop at any accidents you see while driving. I put on my most confident grin and hoped my voice wouldn't betray how unnerved I actually was. Of course, Captain Holloway. I understand. While I understood the need for the rule in such a large, sparsely populated country, I didn't understand why it would be the only rule. I walked out to my car with my new decal and put it on the windshield right then. I didn't want him to see me shirking the rule before I'd even left the parking lot. Once it was on, I called my mum to tell her I was done and on my way home. She had been a warrior ever since my dad passed away. That's actually why I agreed to move in with her when I had trouble finding a job after college. I didn't expect my prospects to be much better in a small town, but I could keep an eye on my mom while I sent in applications. Plus, I found a way to do some good while I was out here. It didn't have anything to do with the kind of job I was looking for, but it made me feel useful and, well, that's a nice change. As a volunteer, I didn't get dispatched to calls. I was just supposed to help if I saw an accident. It was a cheap solution for the issues caused by a large county having a limited number of ambulances. I saw a few accidents while running out errands and I stopped at each of them. Only one required medical assistance. The passenger had broken her nose when the airbag deployed. There wasn't much I could do to help her nose other than hold an ice pack on it, but I did call it in. I waited with the two of them for about an hour until the tow truck and the ambulance arrived. It was a slight inconvenience, but not the end of the world. I was heading home pretty late one night after attending a friend's wedding. I was exhausted from the events of the day and I was looking forward to crashing into my bed at home. I exited the freeway and turned onto the winding 2-lane highway that would take me the rest of the way home. I saw a sign for the upcoming rest stop. Rest stop, 1 mile. I smiled knowing that meant I was halfway there and the very thought of getting home seemed to make me more tired. I yawned and turned up the radio to help me stay awake. And then I saw it. A truck crashed into a tree near the entrance of the rest stop. I was still at least 15 minutes from my house and the thought of having to wait an hour or longer for an ambulance to arrive was too much. I slowed down and turned on my high beams as I approached the site of the crash. The driver's side door was open, but there were no people anywhere in sight. I decided that some drunk had probably wrecked and then bailed before the authorities were notified. I didn't see a point in stopping if there was nobody to help, so I just kept driving. In my hurry to get home, I had forgotten the rule. My exhausted brain quickly forgot about the wreck as it faded from view in my rearview mirror. I was singing along to the radio when I saw the sign again. Rest stop, 1 mile. I was confused because I knew there was only one rest stop between the highway and my mom's house on this road. I thought for a moment that I had possibly fallen asleep and missed a turn for the house, but that was impossible. There was no way I could have successfully navigated the turns in the road while asleep. My confusion turned to dread as I approached the rest stop and saw the accident again. That same red truck was there, the front end smashed up against the trunk of a tree and the driver's door still open. I glanced at it as I drove on, still seeing no one in the truck or rest stop. I tried to shake it off, blamed the whole stranger scenario on my need for sleep, but deep down I knew that wasn't it. I pressed my foot on the accelerator, just wanting to get away from the situation as fast as possible. Rest stop, 1 mile. You've got to be kidding me! I said aloud to the empty seat next to me. I didn't even bother to slow down when I saw the wreck this time. All the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up straight, and I just knew that I needed to get away from this place. I watched the wreck in my rearview mirror as I drove away until it was out of sight. I started to feel silly when I went another mile and didn't see the sign. Maybe I had really imagined the whole thing. And then I saw her. A woman walking along the side of the highway in a grey tattered dress. I slowed down as I approached her, not wanting to accidentally clip her on the narrow highway. She stopped walking and began to point at my car as I drove by. I was about to stop the car and see if she needed help, but when I looked in my rearview mirror, she was gone. Adrenaline surged through my body, ridding me of the exhaustion that had plagued the earlier part of my drive home. I didn't have much time to think about her before I saw the sign again. Rest stop, 1 mile. Before I even got to the rest stop, I saw several more people walking along both sides of the road. All of them were in tattered, grey clothes, and every single one of them was pointing at my car. Without realizing, I had slowed my car until I was barely moving. I rolled down the window to ask the man closest to my car if he needed help. When he didn't answer immediately, I assumed that he hadn't heard me over the radio. I stopped the car, turned down the music, and asked him loudly, "Sir, do you need my help? You can use my phone to call you and your friends a ride if you need." His answer, if you could call it that, was a shrill scream that echoed in my ear. Soon after, all others along the road also started screeching with him, all while pointing at my car. I decided it was probably not safe to sit there with my window down while these people were screaming like that, so I rolled up my window and drove away. Once again I drove past the wreck, this time while dialing 911 on my phone. I was far too creeped out to stop at this point, but I could call in the wreck and the strange people on the side of the highway. It rang and rang, but nobody answered. I knew this was unusual because Captain Holloway said someone was always on duty to answer dispatch calls in Grimes County. The wreck was still in sight from my rearview mirror when I started passing by people on the side of the road again. This time, they seemed angry. Instead of just pointing at my car, they charged at it. I slammed on my brakes to avoid hitting one of them. Within seconds, they'd surrounded my car, beating on the windows and shrieking, "What do you want from me?" I screamed at them, not expecting an answer. I just wanted to curl up into a ball and hide, but I was terrified of what would happen if they managed to break through the windows. "Fuck it," I muttered, as I slammed my foot on the gas pedal. They all seemed to move quickly to get out of the way once the car was moving again. Rest stop, 1 mile. Ah! I let out a frustrated scream. I felt like I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare. The shrieking people I had just left behind were now approaching my car from the front. It looked as though their group had doubled in size. I tried to drive through the crowd like I had done earlier, but this time they didn't move out of the way. I started crying as I ran over several of them. My conscience wouldn't allow me to just keep driving, so after getting ahead of the group a bit, I stopped. Against every instinct I had, I opened my door to get out and checked on those I had hit. Before I could step out all the way, a lone person, separated from the group, slammed my door shut. He was the only one not screaming in unison with the others. His face was different than I remembered, more drawn, and there were dark circles under his eyes as if he hadn't slept in years. But the way those eyes looked at me were unmistakable. I rolled down my window. "Dad? How are you here? What's going on?" He might have been dead, but he was still my dad, and I yearned to reach out and hug him. He shook his head. "Charlie, you ain't supposed to be here. You have to leave." "I've been trying. I can't get out of here. The roads just keep bringing me back. Please, get in. Help me find the way out. You can come with." Tears rolled down my cheeks as I begged him. I could see the answer in his eyes before he even opened his mouth. I can't, bud. That's not how it works." The others in the group were screaming louder now and making their way to the car. "Remember the rule, Charlie. You've got the decal on your car. You've got to follow the rule. Now go, before they catch up to you." "Dad, I can't just leave you." "You have to, bud. I'm already gone." A sad smile crept across his face. "Remember I love you, Charlie. Now go. Hurry." The others in the group had caught up to us. I slammed on the gas and took off, sobbing as I watched them surround my dad in the rearview mirror. Rest stop, 1 mile. I turned on my hazard lights before the truck even came into view. I didn't see the group of people this time, but I was convinced that they might arrive any minute. I pulled up behind the truck and tried calling dispatch line again. This time it went through. Making an effort to keep the terror out of my voice, I told the dispatcher about the truck. "You didn't stop, did you?" she asked. "I'm put up behind the truck right now." I didn't want to try and explain the situation. "Yeah," she sighed, "but this isn't the first time you passed this accident, is it?" She didn't wait for me to answer. "Don't worry, you're not the first. I sent a deputy and an ambulance to your location right away. Captain Holloway will want to talk to you tomorrow. You can give him back the decal then if you want." As I sat in my car waiting for the deputy, the only thing I could think of was the rule. The one rule so important. They printed it out on a piece of paper from all the other paperwork. All volunteers must keep the emergency responder decal on their windshields. If you pass an accident in your marked vehicle, you must stop to help and call it in. No exceptions.